Hey Steve, I'm gonna give you some lyrics, and you buzz in when you know what song this is. Okay, just go buzz. All right. I was dreaming when I wrote this.
Bzz.
Go ahead.
Prince, 1999.
Okay. I was trying to say it as monotone as possible.
The new Dad Rock! Dad by day! Podcaster by night! Hosts Keith and Steve, two college radio DJs in the 90s, helped expose bands like Nirvana, Pavement, and PJ Harvey. They were to shows, interviewed musicians, and reviewed albums for various Zion papers. They worked security at concerts and once, even did loading for fish. Now, they're dads. Whether you want to explore lesser-known music or take a trip down memory lane, tune to the new Dad Rock. Join hosts Keith and Steve as they navigate the ages together, sharing love of music across various eras and genres. Always well-intentioned, often well-informed, seldom boring. The new Dad Rock will expand your mind.
Do you know the next line?
I was dreaming when I wrote this. Forgive me if I go astray. Is that it?
Nice. Yeah, very good. Wow, impressive. So I guess we're in 1999 already, man. Let's party.
We're all waiting for the year 2000.
Oh, man. Do you remember 1999?
I kind of do, and I think it's because I moved to San Francisco in November of 1998, so it was like all my early memories of San Francisco are 99.
In 1999, I went in the opposite direction. On Valentine's Day, I flew back east, did some clubbing, and then I went to Spain for 3 weeks, my first foreign country that wasn't Canada. In 1999, I was 26. And then I went to Montauk for my summer in Montauk in 1999.
If you want to hear about Montauk, you can dial back and go to episode 98, where we discuss the Montauk Project in great detail.
But funny enough, you actually sent me a tape. So, right, because you were in Montauk 97, 98. You go to San Francisco. I was in San Francisco 97, 98. Go to Montauk. But you sent me a cassette tape.
Yeah, because in 98, you had sent me a tape. I remember it was Modest Mouse on one side and Neutral Milk Hotel on the other.
Oh, nice. Did I send you something, building something out of nothing?
No, it would have been Lonesome Crowded West. And,
oh, wow. Nice.
In the Airplane Over the Sea, yeah.
Yeah, right on. Ooh, that's a good tape. Man,
so I returned the favor and sent you, I guess, a tape in 99. Regale our listeners.
Totally. It was Pavement, Terror Twilight. I assume there was something on the other side, but I recall just rewinding all the time. Do you have an idea what it might be?
What could it have been?
What could it have been? So we're in episode 99. Terror Twilight was our episode 1. So 1 plus 99 equals 100. So we're almost at 100 episodes. Are you excited?
I'm as excited as you could be about creating 100 episodes of the new Dad Rock.
So very, very excited. That's cool. All right. So tell me, what do you think one of the big albums of 1999 was?
You mean besides Pavement, Terror Twilight?
Yeah, we spoke about it so much in episode 1. I'm not sure I want to go too much into it.
Yeah. Well, for me, the biggest album, or one of the biggest, was Tom Waits' Mule Variations. Some call this his last great album. Some say it's a late career masterpiece. I say it's a pretty strong album.
I'm saying I'm not sure I've actually listened to it ever.
You definitely know a lot of the songs.
I don't know. I'm not sure I would do that definitely game right there.
Well, What's He Building is always on our Halloween episode. What's He Building? That song.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll check that out. That's why we started the new Dad Rock. I can listen to new things.
Chocolate Jesus is always in the Easter playlist.
Wait, we have an Easter playlist?
Who doesn't?
Wait, no, I'm not sure we ever did an Easter playlist episode. It seems like such a miss.
Well, maybe that's for the next 100 episodes.
100 more? I'm so tired. Oh my God.
We have so many more good ideas, like Easter playlists. Easter playlists. Come on, man.
Okay. I'm excited for that.
I think Tom Waits' Mule Variations was probably not one of the biggest albums of 1999, but you, Mr. The New, in the new Dad Rock, what was popular?
One of my Desert Island classics, and I know I'm probably knocking out over 10 of these, but I mean, Built to Spill, Keep It Like a Secret is probably in my top 10.
Shh, keep it like a secret.
I was wondering what that was happening. Oh my God. The Plan is great. The plan keeps coming up again. And the plan is nothing stays the same. I think that's what it is. Yeah. I think about that all the time because I'm a professional project manager, and that's exactly what a plan is. Nothing ever stays the same. All the songs are great. Center of the Universe. I'm like, I can seriously turn on any of the songs and be very... Time Trap. I can turn on any of the songs. Any of the tracks is really good. If you've never listened to Built to Spill, Keep It Like a Secret from 1999 is the album to listen to see if you like Built to Spill.
It's kind of like They're Loaded. You know, like the Fifth Velvet Underground album, Lou Reed was upset that he could not make it through and have a hit single. So he purposely made the last album called Loaded, and he thought every single one of those 10 songs was a hit single.
Really?
All the songs on that album are could be hits, and you throw one on the playlist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it like a secret. Shh.
Dude, you're freaking me out.
You know what is freaking you out is a band called the Flaming Lips. Now, this band in the early 90s was noisy, abrasive punk. And then in what year was it? 1996, they made the ridiculous Zyrika album, which is 4 distinct compact discs that you were supposed to play simultaneously on 4 distinct stereo systems. So,
have you ever done that?
Yeah, we did it at one time at the house on Dolores Street.
I also did it at my house on Lion Street with my band members. I think Tracy, Eugene, and Darren. And it was on my birthday. My family was gone for some reason. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so this is what the background is on Flaming Lips. I had seen them. They opened for Stone Temple Pilots, who opened for the Butthole Surfers back in 93 or 94. But
Classic.
Now the Flaming Lips, out of left field, essentially, you know, they had She Don't Use Jelly. That was kind of like
1993,
one hit wonder they were kind of known as, and then they did this freaky album that you had to listen to on 4 stereo systems. Now they come out with the Soft Bulletin, a beautiful album. If you took Radiohead OK Computer and Mercury Rev Deserter songs and married the sensibilities of those 2 albums, squeezed it together, this is what would pop out.
It's pretty amazing. Those are some of the best albums of the late 90s.
The Soft Bulletin, you obviously know that album well. Would you consider it a concept album?
It's not a rock opera, you know, in the classic sense, right? It's not like The Wall or...
Like, it doesn't tell a story with a beginning, middle, and end.
Right. But so it's
like a narrative.
Correct. But it's like more like a Kundera novel, right? Like there's a thematic consistency around mortality, love, and the mysteries of existence. So, and that's kind of what gives it some of its concept album. Because it's a whole thing put together. They're using like a cinematic orchestral sound palette. So really lush production. You know, there's a single emotional arc, you know, from the urgency of race for the prize to the cosmic ache of waiting for a Superman. So, you know, I think it's really thematically and tonality. That seems out of place. But yeah, that's what makes it, quote unquote, a concept album.
And addresses his brother's incident where he was bit by a spider and nearly lost his arm.
Oh my God, really? Woo.
It was either that or he was covering up an infection from drug use, and I think there's some differing stories with that.
Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. This is their album that, like, I mean, how'd you say the other one's Zyrika?
Zyrika?
Yeah, is that how you say it? Yeah. So you're right. The other albums were like early Radiohead, like She Don't Use Jelly is like Creep by Radiohead, but then they hit OK Computer and it like turns them on in a totally different way, and that's what this album's like. It totally spins them up for their next 20 years.
It really does. Indeed, lays the groundwork to a pretty surprisingly mainstream and successful career that the Flaming Lips had in the 2000s.
I mean, I think it's mostly because he got into an inflatable bubble and you roll around the tops of crowds. I think that's kind of what made them famous. But
like a hamster wheel?
Exactly.
I always thought in 1999, and it was kind of like when we were talking about the late 70s, how things had kind of gotten a little placid, a little bit static, you know, waiting for the year 2000, something, you know, we were on the verge of something and we didn't know what it was. And part of it was we didn't know if our computers were going to work anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure the youngins or the millennials or the alphas are going to understand that at all. But for whatever reason, when they start building computers a lot in the early 70s, they decided to use years with only 2 digits. So there was some concern. So like instead of 1999, it was 99. So there was some concern that when we flip to 2000, you go from 99 to 00 and all these computers with a 2-digit year format, that crazy things would happen, like planes coming out of the skies, bank balances being reduced to zeros. It's just like people thought power grid was going to go down. And what happened, Steve?
Absolutely nothing. I guess it was really one of the first big conspiracy theories that caught on, right? Because there wasn't a lot of basis. In fact, I don't remember myself ever being particularly worried that, oh shit, this is actually going to happen. I don't know how you felt, but I don't remember having any anxiety over it. I remember there being a buzz in the media about it and people talking about it, but I don't remember altering my life at all.
It was a very profitable business. I'm sure like lots of IT firms were hired by big companies to go in and try to, I guess, go through all the legacy code and update wherever there's a 2-digit year field to a 4-digit year field.
I mean, is that really what the dot-com boom was? It was really just all that hiring to worry about the Y2K virus. And, if you think about it, the tech boom ended 2001,
Yeah, the first one.
March of 2001 was kind of the end of it. So
you can imagine it's kind of like the AI rush, right? Like the late 90s internet rush. It's a land grab. And it was super big. And then there was just too many pets.coms or buyfoodontheinternet.com for your pet. So like it just it was just a crash. It was just a bubble. And I wonder if AI is like that.
Well, the problem was back then is no one knew how to monetize it. So if you think back, one of the biggest things in 1999 was Napster. Music is free. This is great. And, Metallica sues little kids and record labels don't know what to do. And, it took a decade, essentially, for Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal to really wrap their heads around what it is. But, back in 1999, if you wanted to hear an album, you had to go out and buy the CD. And that's what you bought. It was a CD. MP3s existed, but, Napster was the first place that opened it up. And then there were the other ones. LimeWire, I remember, was one. There was a handful of imitators. And for about a year, it was a free-for-all, and you could listen to everything. And
you could, but you were still using telephone lines, right? It was still really low. Like, it took a while to transfer all this data.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
wow.
I feel like this might be the moment that music stopped evolving. And the reason for that is because for the first time ever, you had all of the songs, all of the music, current history, looking back, all the references, all the samples you could go back and listen to.
Oh, that is very interesting.
Because everything is there, and you realize how deep. We've been talking about it for the last 30 episodes, how great the evolution, how many bands that were under, bubbling under, that never gained notoriety or popularity were amazing, still waiting to be discovered. So much great music came out up until the year 2000 that it's still to this day we're just digesting it. And, there's been some evolution. I don't want to say nothing's happened in the last 25 years, but the rate of change has really slowed down.
It's interesting that you say the rate of change. I think it's more that everything informed everything else, so everything got mixed together. I think maybe that's, or that everything was possible, so everything exists. So whereas like maybe in the late 70s, it was like punk was a big force, or psychedelic stuff in the late 60s, I think what happens is you just have such, maybe not like total fracture, or you just had everything available. Because you're right, that's a good point, that you could listen to everything without spending any money on it, which you never could do before, besides flipping through radio stations endlessly. And even then, they're not playing all the weird music. But all of a sudden, you have access on these peer-to-peer networks. So what Napster did was you'd install a client on your computer, and you would share all your music into it. And then someone else would do that. And then someone else would do that. And then these clients would find the closest other Napster clients, and you have a library shared. So everyone's just sharing all their libraries. So, and everyone has a couple weird albums from their uncle or their older brothers or their dad. And so everyone has random albums or local albums. So all of a sudden, everything is up there in the, it wasn't a cloud then because it was peer to peer, but everything is out there on the internet and you can find anything you wanted. Yeah. So yeah, you stop paying $10 an album. I didn't really use Napster though. Did you?
I didn't use it a ton. I was still, buying CDs through cdnow.com probably. What we were starting to see ahead, Napster was kind of looking forward. Another thing that was very forward-looking from a 1999 album is Moby Play.
Yeah, that was like the first album where every song was licensed on it.
Yeah, so it meant his songs were in commercials everywhere. They were in movies. They were in television shows. It was ubiquitous. There was from 90 to 92, from 99 to 2002, there was a Moby song in everything.
I actually kind of like that album.
I've gone back and listened to it a couple of times in recent weeks, knowing this episode was coming up. And I think I liked it a lot more back then than I do now. I feel like it didn't really hold up. And maybe it's just the familiarity that makes it seem so banal, but it's...
Yeah. Actually, I want to go back to the Napster thing. I explained it wrong. Napster was actually launched in 99, but the architecture was centralized because all the users connected to a central server that index files, but it got shut down because of legal action by the RIAA and artists like Metallica and strangely Dr. Dre. And because it was centralized, it was easy to shut down. What I was talking about is Nutella, which was set up by these other folks, which was decentralized, so there's no central server, and users connected directly to each other in a mesh network. And so because of that, Nutella was a lot harder to shut down. And it evolved and was used by clients like LimeWire, which you said. And so it was interesting how the technology is racing against the law, right? It was amazing because I remember when Nutella came out, my friends were working on it, and I remember being interviewed. I went with them to a place where they're being interviewed by a New York Times writer about this in the 2001 era. Because once Napster was shut down, things kind of went underground. Man, it was exciting back then.
It was very exciting. And it was so exciting that Beck got horny.
Wait, did he? On what song?
His whole album, Midnight Vultures, it was all just like freaking horn dog club hits. Like, that was the crazy thing about the late 90s that I think people forget. It was a relatively carefree time there, and maybe it was because we were that right age, but yeah, everyone's worried that their computer isn't going to turn over the right way.
Yeah, but everything else is going pretty well. You're right.
Yeah, things.
That's a good point.
We're going to party like it's 1999. Prince was very prescient when he wrote that lyric, while he was dreaming, I guess. That song was played a lot in 1999, so I think there was a lot of that carefree, let it go. This is the end. This is our time. These are the halcyon days, and it really was.
Okay, I would argue that some of the music coming out itself, though, they were trying to fight against an enemy that we didn't have. So Blink-182 came out with "Enema of the State," so that's kind of where like pop punk goes mainstream with hits like "All the Small Things." And then Rage Against the Machine, I think, was that their second album, The Battle of Los Angeles? Third album? They didn't have that many albums.
That was their third album.
What's the middle album then? Bulls on Parade or whatever? Yeah. Do you know what Red Hot Chili Peppers album came out in 1999?
Was that Californication that year?
Dude, you are good at this, damn it. Okay.
This is, I don't know, it just seems a little bit uninspired.
Agreed. The music's good. Yeah.
Like I mentioned that Beck Midnight Vultures album. You go back, it's pretty quirky, but the song Deborah, the very last track, is pretty great. I kind of dismissed the Primus album, where the conceit of that
Anti-pop?
Anti-pop. He had a lot of different producers do each song, like Tom Morello for Rage Against the Machine did 3 songs, Fred Durst did a couple of songs, but the big one from that album was Coattails of a Dead Man with Tom Waits, who also, as I mentioned, put out Mule Variations in 1999. So a big year for Mr. Waits. But like I said, all of these albums had only one song or maybe one or two good songs. Even Pavement, Terror, Twilight,
I would strangely argue that every other song was good. I think it was the odd songs, not the even songs.
Depends which
Some-
order.
Fair enough. Their order, which sucked. I agree that we should have gone with Nigel Godrich's order.
I know we made a whole podcast about it.
I know we did. All right, so I want you to guess. Can you guess a hip hop or rap album that came out in 1999?
Probably not.
Oh, I think okay. Fair enough. One of them is misnamed 2001. Dr. Dre 2001.
Andre?
Remember that one?
Andre 2000?
No. That's
Andre
no Dr.
3000?
Dre 2001. No.
Okay.
2001 was a landmark West Coast rap album, and you know who it introduced to the mainstream?
Who?
Doesn't Melt in Your Hands.
Eminem?
Yeah, and then Eminem came out with his first EP, the explosive debut, raw and controversial Slim Shady LP.
Wow. So exciting.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, there was a bunch of albums that came out that year, but Nas I Am, which was a mixed bag of commercially successful follow-up to Illmatic. Missy Elliott, The Real World, which was futuristic, which makes sense. 1999, you're looking into the future, which was Timbaland's production on that. Then you have the indie or the cult albums. Wilco, Summer Teeth, people love that album.
Can I just say Wilco is the whole reason why there is the new Dad Rock, not just Dad Rock? Wilco is
because
Dad Rock. We are the
Agreed.
New Dad Rock.
Seriously, that could be the whole marker. You're right. I've tried to love Wilco. Wilco even does like a multi-day festival in Mexico that Stephen Malcolmus has played at, and I still can't get into it. And he wrote a book that I haven't read. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah,
It's just
I've liked one or two of their songs here and there over the decades. So I don't want to piss on people who like Wilco. That's great. I don't like them personally.
my wife's favorite song, or one of them, is California Stars, but it's a song by Billy Bragg with Wilco.
Oh, I know that album.
It doesn't come out 2001, but yeah. So another album that came out that year that was super, super awesome. Bonnie Prince Billy, I See a Darkness. Did you ever listen to that?
I definitely listened to that, and I remember liking him a lot more back then. What's on I See a Darkness?
Well, I See a Darkness is on that, and that was covered by Johnny Cash on his American Classics. Is that what it was called? American Recordings, which he did with Rick Rubin. And Rick suggested they use Bonnie Prince Billy's I See a Darkness. One of my favorite songs. I mean, Johnny Cash has a bunch of great covers. That's where he also did Hurt by Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
He put out, I think he put out like, it might be up to 10 of these albums.
Johnny
4?
Cash did 10? I think he did 4, but maybe
4,
he did
okay.
10.
No, I 4 I see in my head because I see the I and the V for 4.
Yeah.
But so Bonnie Prince Billy, I don't think we've ever really talked about him. He was in a band before they called Palace Brothers. He was from like Virginia, and he was an actor, but he didn't want to really act. Or I'm sorry, he was in very artsy things. He's very much self-reliant. He believes in like one take only.
Wasn't he like in a Jim Jarmusch movie or something like that?
Yeah. He's not, I don't think he's trained in any of this, but he loves it. And I mean, I really like Bonnie Prince Billy, or Will Oldham as an artist. I don't necessarily listen to all of his music all the time. He puts out a lot of it, which I appreciate, with lots of different people. I don't think I've ever seen him live either, because the tickets always
I
sell
saw
right
him
away.
live. He was opening for Bjork, and I saw it at Coney Island Stadium in Brooklyn. It was one of the weirdest
Show venues ever. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know it's weird, but I will say that Will Oldham is kind of the Bjork of Appalachia. Like for sure. Oh, by the way, his album that came out this past year, he and whoever he made it with is some engineer friend that he worked with a couple of times, and the guy's like, "Hey, come down to Nashville." He lives in Virginia, so he drove down. And he's like, "Hey, I booked a couple of session musicians, and session musicians are just the best musicians. They can do anything." And so his last album's actually really, 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 really good. From those sessions, I believe, there's also 2 15-minute long songs that are not on the album. But those 2 50-minute songs, I think one's called Evidence and the other one's called something else, are magnificent. I'll put them in the liner notes. You probably haven't heard those at all.
I definitely
Steve.
haven't. That's exciting.
Dude. Yeah, see, I finally, 99 episodes, finally one new band for you. Or two new songs.
Excellent. Well, as things were winding down on the century, on the millennium in 1999, there were two giants of the 1990s and two giants of the new dad rock canon who called it a day. On September 25th, the Afghan Wigs played their last show.
I saw them in 2018 in Toronto.
I'm telling you, in September 25th of 1999, they played their last show. At the time, they broke up. There was no farewell tour. There was no announcement until 2 years later. But Greg Dooley went on to form the Twilight Singers. And then in 2012, the Afghan Wigs did get back together. So, yes, they did continue, and there was a happy ending to that story. They've released 3 albums as the Afghan Wigs since 2014. And
I like
then,
Dooley.
on November 20th, Stephen Malkmus went out on stage in Brixton Academy.
And
had handcuffs around the microphone stand in some artistic statement of slavery that he felt being in a band. And it ended up being Pavement's last show, November 20th.
Dude.
Now, I saw Pavement on that tour not long before that show, probably October.
In San Francisco. Yeah.
I don't think you were there. I think it was me, Stratton, and
I was not there.
I think it was Jen.
Ferguson. Yeah, it was Jen.
The 3 of us went to that show, and they were horrible. Like,
wait. Was it at the Maritime Hall?
Yes.
Oh my God, what a random location. That's up on First and Harrison. Yeah.
And they were just not good. And at that point I'd probably seen Pavement 5 or 6 times.
And they were never good.
No, I mean there were times that they were pretty good, and there are nights that Malkmus is on fire, just playing some.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Goes nuts.
Yeah.
This night everything was disjointed. They did not want to be up there at all. So when they disappeared, it didn't surprise me, and and then in 2010 they got back together and did a tour in 2010, and then they did another one.
2022? Yeah,
they've kind of been on and off tour since then, and now they have the Pavements movie that's out and about. It's playing in the city.
Oh my God. I think it's a wire release in early June. By the way, this whole Pavements thing is fascinating. Because his lyrics are so good for a meta movie. And, I mean, I believe they earned it. It's very interesting, though, that I feel the main problem Malcolm had with his band was they weren't very good as a band. And they didn't live together. Everyone lived in 5 different places. So they never got to practice, so they were never tight. Even my crappy band that never wrote songs as good as Pavement, we'd play once a week. Right? So he lacked that. So it's interesting because he goes to Portland and he forms the Jicks, and he gets to play with the same people over and over again, which is great. But he's recently moved to Chicago, and I don't know where the Hard Quartet, his new 4-piece, is. Well, obviously, I don't know if they're all in Chicago, but I wonder if it's changed anything he's done.
Maybe they are. The Hard Quartet is good.
They are good.
I really enjoy it, and I think Malcolm needs another creative mind in the band to help him, keep him honest and keep pushing him too. So I think he had that with Canberg. And now he's got it in the Hard Quartet.
Yeah, we accidentally said that the Hard Quartet's album was the #1 album of 2024. And by accidentally, I mean we did it async. We each listed our top 20 bands, top 20 albums, and then we created some fake math equation. That's who came out on top. And the funny part is, I actually feel pretty good about that, but it took me like 3-4 months into the year to actually believe it.
Yeah.
That album's great.
I still listen to it from time to time.
Did you see them live in New York? I was out of town when they played Philly.
I think I was out of town too.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm glad the Afghan Wigs got back together. When I saw them at the Danforth in Toronto, it was phenomenal. And they did do The Plan, which was great. I think they also did Time Trap. I think those were the 2 songs from that album.
Well, that's Built to Spill, not Afghan Wigs.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, no, I know why I confused it. Built to Spill together? Played with the Afghan Wigs. Yeah, it was so good. And Afghan Wigs actually played first. I think they're doing one of those co-headlining tours where they kind of rotate who plays first or second. The reason I remember Built to Spill in that story is because I left like near the end of that because I was, lit.
Well, I saw. So Afghan Wigs last year was on a similar co-headlining tour with a band called The Church.
The Church, yeah. Is that the Milky Way at Night band?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Under the milk.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Afghan Wigs played first. I immediately
Got to
walked
go
out
home
of the
early.
show and got on the train and went home.
Oh, it's so perfect. Oh,
Being old, man.
old people.
Yeah, being old. It rules. Y2K. Woo! 1999!
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for coming and hanging out with us on our last year of the 20th century. We
And
look
we'll
forward.
see you next time on episode 100.
100.
We got something a little special up our sleeves. Don't you be missing that one. Tell your friends. Tell your landlady.
What do you mean, lunch lady?